What's up, YouTube? Out here taking the KLR for a spin on a dirt road that may be familiar to some of you from previous videos. I'm finally getting a chance to try out on something other than pavement a new suspension setup. This suspension setup on here is from Cogent Suspensions. And also, I am only in possession of this new setup thanks to Tankerman. I'll put a link to his channel right here. Very awesome and very generous of him. He was doing what he usually does, which is being a nice guy and trying to help people. And he did a little drawing for a charitable cause. And the prize for that drawing, which he actually won, was a new suspension setup. And because he's awesome and thinks apparently I'm more awesome than I am, he gifted me with that suspension setup. And that suspension setup is from Cogent Suspensions. And thank you, big huge thanks to Tankerman for that, and also for, you know, just being a nice guy and letting me ride with him all the time. So this video's purpose is to kind of give a general idea, at least my opinion, of the Cogent Suspension setup for a Generation 1 KLR 650. Now, this specific package that is on this bike right now has progressive springs, not from the company Progressive, but progressive type springs that are from Cogent, that are as a replacement to the Progressive brand springs that I had. So I'm assuming the performance of the springs would be very similar. But the main difference on here now is that it has Cogent's drop-in valving, which they actually work with the person, the customer, and tune the valving specifically for the type of riding you do, how much you weigh, blah blah blah. They essentially custom specify what your setup will be before they ship you the product. And through Tankerman, he actually got all of my information. Again, huge thanks to him. And he said, you know, he weighs this much, this is the kind of bike he has, he does on and off-road riding. And Cogent sent a box with springs and the drop-in valves, the little valving pieces, that again, they're drop-in. You don't have to take your forks all the way apart. You basically take your cap off, preload spacer out, old spring out, and the little washer that goes on top too. And you put in the new springs, or excuse me, pour the oil out, and you take the little valving piece and you drop it in. That's why they call it drop-in. You drop it into the fork, you set the spring, either your old spring or if they supply you with a spring, on top of that, put your little washer on top. And by the way, Cogent even supplied the oil, the fork oil. It was like the most complete suspension kit you can imagine. Put that all together. They even supplied the preload spacers and got it put together. And I've ridden it on the road a few times and in my yard, and it's really cool. I like it, but I haven't really been able to take it over any bumpy gravel roads. And interestingly enough, you may notice that I'm talking with my hand. I'm on a reasonably rough road, and I didn't realize I was doing it until just now, but the front end is so planted with this. I'm going blah blah blah, I'm talking with my hand, and the front end's just walking down the road, no problem. Admittedly, this isn't ever ride country. This isn't the Badlands. This isn't babyhead rocks that we're crawling over. But for general dual sport use, which is what this kit was spec'd out as for me, it's noticeably more dampened, more planted than the general setup, even with upgraded springs that I had. This is even more planted. It's more just, what's the word I'm looking for? Confident. The suspension makes you more confident in the fact that your bike isn't going to just bounce out from under you. Now, of course, you're in sand, the bike will slide. That has nothing to do with suspension, but you know, as far as bumps, handling it, dampening it. I've got an upgraded rear monoshock, and I'm feeling right now, wow, the rear end is actually considerably more rough than the front. It used to be like that. The new Cogent setup is actually quite good. My first thing that I noticed was that the new suspension is, well, a little bit off-roading here, don't mind the grass, but the new suspension setup is lower set, as in, oh, there we go, right there. There's kind of some bumps, handling it no problem. And the new suspension setup has the front end sag more than I was expecting. And I was kind of worried about that at first. I said, man, well, ground clearance. Maybe whenever, again, right here, yeah, there you go. It's actually some pretty good bumps right here. I said, man, the sag might be too much. I might not have enough ground clearance. I might eat my words later, but pretty sure that's not a problem. It handles all of the general riding that I do, you know, about, I don't know, half on-road, half off, probably a little bit more on-road than off-road, and it handles it. In fact, it handles it, I hate to say it, but it handles it better than the setup I had, and I wasn't expecting that. And it's quite good. If you notice, the bike actually, on a kickstand, sits about like it did. But when you put weight on it, and you see I did some Everride-esque work on my front fairing, but when you load it, you can see it compresses a good bit, which I wasn't used to coming from a stiffer setup where I had huge preload spacers because, oh, I thought I needed to have it super stiff. Well, Cogent, new preload spacers, new valving, all of that, and I guess you should just trust the professionals to do a good job, but definitely it'll admit it. They did. 2 thumbs up. Thank you for making an awesome kit, Cogent. And thank you again to Tankerman for generally just being a nice guy, a good rider, and also very generous when he comes into, you know, nice things, and even when he doesn't, just riding with us. So appreciate y'all watching this. Hopefully, if you're looking for suspension or a suspension company that could provide you with a better setup, more dampened ride and things like that, my experiences is the Cogent suspension seems to be quite good. It's very planted. It's quite soft, which surprised me, but that's all part of it sticking to the ground really well. So again, guys and ladies, whatever, who's ever watching this, thanks for watching. Hopefully this was maybe informative, maybe entertaining, whatever. Hopefully you enjoyed it. So be careful out there. See you later.